Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Leading from Alignment with our good friend, coach, and mentor, fresh off of a break. So, like a daisy in April, John Opalewski. How are you today, John?
Oh man, I I guess I'm great according to you. I must be doing fantastic. No, I'm doing well. It's good to be back. In a few weeks, we'll have. Actually, I think in a couple of weeks after this recording, we'll kind of do a recap of some of the things the Lord dropped
Yeah,
on me
love
during
it.
vacation. But it's good to be home and back in the saddle and working, Jim. Good to, and it's actually really good to be
Yeah,
with you today. I mean, it's
yeah.
always
We,
fun.
we missed you. I mean, I think everything went well in your absence because you're a good leader and you delegate well. But it's just more fun when you're around than when you're not around. So welcome back, you and Laura, and expected a better tan though. I don't know that I
Yeah, I'm careful. I don't,
yeah.
I wear sunscreen and I protect my skin to the best of my ability. So
Yeah, I mean, you're half Italian. You should get that glow going, right? It's
yeah,
you're
I should.
favoring the Polish side of your complexion and not the Italian side, that olive skin you get. Hey, so 328. I've gone through these notes and looked at your thoughts, and boy, I think this is I you know, I mean, there's a truth and there's a depth to truth, but this is a real heart to heart. This is a real rubber meets the road sort of a teaching. So, do you want to introduce your thoughts for us today?
Sure. The title is called Three Truths Every Pastor Must Understand.
Yeah,
And, there are so many things we need to understand as leaders. I think we could probably podcast on something like this for several months.
yeah,
As a matter of fact, I think we do, right?
yeah.
We're always talking about things pastors need to know, learn, deal with. But I wanted to narrow the conversation down today to three things that I think,
Okay,
Jim, are absolutely critical to the health and longevity of a lead pastor, of any pastor for
yeah,
that matter.
yeah.
And so, if you don't mind, I'll just jump right in
Hit it.
and we'll get rolling.
Yeah.
So, here's the first one, Pastor. You can lose the church you lead and still have a great life.
Right. Wow.
Now, let me explain that.
Yeah.
Uh, this first thing or truth speaks to priority. You can lose the church you pastor, and you can still have a good life, a great life.
Yeah.
If you lose your family, it's going to be a lot harder to have a great life.
Right.
And if you lose your family, you're going to lose your ministry at least at a minimum for a while, and maybe you'll lose that particular ministry for forever.
Right.
I am haunted by this passage of scripture. 1 Timothy 5:8. If anyone does not provide for his family, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, ouch. Like, the Apostle
Yeah.
Paul um, isn't always nuanced, right? Sometimes he
He had a
just comes
way.
up and he lets you have it.
Yeah.
And I read that and it gives me pause.
Okay.
That the immediate context of that verse is providing for material needs
Sure.
for your family.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm old now and I realize that providing for our families means more than just money. It means providing emotional resources,
Yes.
time, training our children, being there for our spouse. And Jim, I wonder what you think about this first idea. I've got a little bit more to say about it, but I just want to stop and hear what your thought is.
No, my first thought is this. I think there's certain things you can look at from different ways. Certain things, if you get them, that's great. If you lose them, that's tragic, right? So if you get
Hmm.
the big church but you lose your family, that's not worth it. If you gain the whole world but forfeit your soul, that's not worth it. And I think sometimes we almost connect the two. Like I can be a success everywhere, but there are some things that can just never be satisfied. I'm not sure that my wife will ever say, "Okay, you've loved me enough," and my children would say, "Okay, I no longer want you to be wise or affectionate, or I'm done with that." But I at the same time, the church is bottomless. There will always be needs. There will always be
That's right.
lines, people. There will always be. So to to make a decision in the moment when there's this crises and there's this understanding family, we often make the wrong decision. So I heard somebody say
Yeah.
the other day, the biggest mistake I made in my life, this is what they said, is I gave the best part of my life to people I don't even know today. I
Mm.
thought
Wow.
that's an interesting statement for
Yeah.
the interior goal of success, not just serving the Lord humbly, but I in order to get where I got to go, I got to meet with my movers and shakers. I got to organize. There's got to be this and that. And his kids are at home with a little league coach teaching them how to swing a bat, and he missed it. And I
Yeah.
think there's and by the way, we should just make our own decisions, right? I think some people should marry, and some people shouldn't, according to Paul. Some people, whatever it is, but once you've chosen that life, you owe the people you vowed yourself to a different access to you than the audience on Sunday morning. And
Right.
you got to be careful. It's a balancing act. It's a
It,
balancing act.
it it is, and I know that we can swing to the other extreme, where
Hmm.
family becomes almost an idol, and
Yeah.
we don't put in the right amount of effort in our ministry. So
Yeah.
we can go both ways with this.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if we find ourselves neglecting our family, it's likely we've taken on more responsibility than we should have.
Yeah.
I'm of the mind, Jim, that God won't call us to do something in one area that would force us to disobey Him in another area.
It's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think the first thing I would I want to understand, and I want our listeners and watchers to understand, is you can losing your ministry is not painless. I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah.
But if you lose that, you can still have a
Yeah.
fruit-filled life. But if you lose your family or you lose your health,
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot harder to have a great life. Now,
Yeah.
due to my battle, which is well chronicled on this podcast, with major depression,
Yeah.
I resigned the church that I was pastoring.
Yeah.
Even though that was a hard decision, it was
Sure.
hard to make that decision. But
Mm.
Laura and I, with God's help, have built, I think, a great life.
Yeah. Me too.
So that's the first thing I think a leader should know. Here's the second
Mhm.
thing I think every leader should know, and that's the church you lead can lose you, and
Yeah.
they can still have a great life.
Yeah.
Uh, and the second idea speaks to identity. First one is about priority. This one's about identity. When I was young and had a full head of hair, I was a youth pastor in Saginaw, Michigan, and after 6 years there, we had, I don't know, probably about 200 kids that called that youth group their home.
Yeah.
And then I left that role to take on a lead pastor role. And one of my worries, Jim, was what happens to this group of kids when I leave?
Yeah.
Is it going to fall apart?
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't have worried about that because the next guy grew it to 400.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
he, I mean, he came in and he just mopped up, man. He
Right.
did fantastic.
Yeah.
And that that was a humbling but an important part of
Yes.
my development is
Yeah.
that I didn't actually lose that. They lost me, right?
Yeah.
But they had a great life without me there.
Right. Right.
And I think what can happen is, and we've talked about this so much, but I just feel like we got to talk about it as much as we do.
Yeah.
Our identity can get so wrapped up in what we do for a living.
Yeah.
And if we get our identity more from the people we serve than from the God who has adopted us
Right.
and loves us,
Yeah.
we often overestimate how important we are
Yeah.
in the equation. So, Jim, I want to stop and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this second one.
Yeah. Well, again, I think what you're saying is there's an assignment. We say this a lot: quality and fidelity. Do your
That's
best,
right.
do it consistently. And, I don't know any youth pastor that plans on being with this youth group 50 years from now. Right. And,
Right.
and, and those who might say that they don't know what they're talking about. Right. So even if you said that, I'm still
Yeah,
not
a
going to believe
couple
it.
of sleepovers when you're
Yeah.
in your mid 30s. We'll cure
Yeah.
you of that.
Yes, every youth pastor over the age of 35 has a story about their last all-nighter.
That's right.
I did when I was 27, I had my last all-nighter, because junior high schoolers, if you don't have a wonderful program prepared for them, they have a wonderful program prepared for you. And it happens about 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So I think it comes back to this. There are seasons in life. Be careful of getting your identity from things that are temporary. And every title, other than son or daughter, is temporary.
Mm,
Every
that's
position
right.
is temporary, other than your position in the family of God. And it's easy to say, it's harder. I'm 60. I'm not landing the plane, but I can kind of see the airport from where I'm at, and I'm working through this myself right now. What is Jim Wiegand when he's no longer pastor Jim Wiegand?
Mhm.
That's a significant question because I don't want to be
Yes, it is.
nothing. I like to do something meaningful and useful, but sooner or later, every pastor, I don't know, is in the way, is hindering what they once promoted.
Yeah.
They're when you're being honored for what you've done rather than respected for what you're doing, it's probably time to put somebody else in there. And it's hard. I mean, I'm looking down the barrel at this and it's hard. So I don't know. I think professional athletes all suffer when they're no longer professional athletes and
Right.
pastors, but I do know this. You'll not be the first person who goes through it. It's a normal part of the process. And I think, like you're saying now, cultivate your identity apart from a lot of these other things because they're all
That's right.
temporary. You don't build your house on sand. We're warned very clearly about building your house on things that shift. And
Right.
every title you hold right now, other than son or daughter, is going to shift. And that's
That's right.
part of life. So make sure your anchor is on the proper part of the seabed, or you'll be drifting everywhere, and it's no fun.
That's right. And one of the mantras, Jim, that I uh, tell myself to help me with this is that first and foremost, I'm a son who
Yes.
just happens to coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a coach who happens to be a son.
It's
And
good. Yeah.
that might sound overly simplified, but it's just the right perspective.
It is.
Like I've been invited to tag along by my heavenly Father
Yeah.
to do work with leaders. He does most of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Our clients do most of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
I just tag along
Yeah.
and I get to help. I get to help. And I realize that all of us that have ministry leadership responsibilities, um, when those go away, the hope is that the organization we've led, will flourish. Right? We
Yeah.
want it to do well, and
Yeah.
there is going to be that neutral zone, that season of where we rediscover. Okay, God, it's not. I'm not going to rediscover who I am primarily. I think what I'm going to rediscover is, God, what do you want me to do
Yeah.
in this new season?
Right.
And it might, Jim,
Purpose.
it might
Yeah.
be something different than you did in the previous season.
Yes. Yeah.
One of my friends was telling me about the president of a Christian university who retired, and now he's raising goats in Idaho.
Yeah.
That's that's his new season.
Yeah.
And you know what? God might lead you to do something like that. You think you have to be open, right, to
Yeah.
whatever it is. But
And
the
if pastors are
pastor,
good at anything, it's being around goats. So I think that's a brilliant. I think that's a brilliant
I
conclusion.
didn't even think about that.
But I think you said something earlier that's important. You're primarily a son who gets to coach, but I think that makes you a better coach. And I think
Yes.
I'm a son who gets to own a business. I'm a son who gets to pastor a church. I'm a son that gets to serve a group of 100 kids in youth
Yeah.
ministry. That makes you a better whatever the rest of that sentence is, because you'll sell things you shouldn't sell to gain things you just can't keep if you're not careful. You'll
That's
compromise.
right.
You'll negotiate. Because I can't. These three families can't leave because of that. You're not secure enough to lead if you don't know who you are and lead from that platform. Now everything's a negotiation, and people get put in the wrong place, and it gets sick pretty quick.
Yeah,
We have, yeah, those are the second law of thermodynamics. Things tend to get worse, not better, over time. So it is a divine thing that things get better. It defies the rules of the world around us when things get better. So it only get better if we're with the one who makes things better. We know who
that's
we
right.
are, and we can lead from that platform with peace. Now we're not arguing Now we're not yelling. Now we're not compromising. Now we're not negotiating. We're just simply serving the Lord and leading people. So I think you are better as a coach because you've recognized your sonship has priority over the other positions of your world.
100% right. Let me give you one more
Yeah.
uh, thing that I think would be important for pastors and leaders to understand. And here it is: an unfettered pace is the most common cause of personal failure.
Yeah.
Chris Hodges said this. He didn't say it exactly like that, but I'd say 75% of this came from Chris Hodges, and
Yeah.
I amended it a little bit.
Yeah.
And this third truth that pastors and leaders need to understand speaks to longevity. Um, and sometimes longevity, in terms of it, helps us prevent burnout and
Yeah.
depression. Sometimes longevity in terms of preventing us from doing stupid stuff because we're
Yeah.
tired.
Yes.
One of my favorite passages of scripture, and we come back to this passage so often, Matthew 11:28 through 30, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you." Yoke has to do with pace.
Yeah.
And I think what Jesus is saying there is you need to adjust to my pace because I'm not going to adjust to yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And here's what I've discovered. The more growth that takes place in your ministry, the more pace becomes an issue.
Hmm.
And the more tempted you're going to be to rationalize
Yes.
an out of control schedule. You will
Yes.
say things like, "Look what God's doing.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like work." That line scares me, not
Yeah.
because I haven't experienced those moments where what I was doing felt effortless, but because of the lie I believe that even though it felt effortless, I thought that meant I wasn't expending energy.
Right.
Not
Not
true.
true. Not true. Yeah.
And so what happens is if you love what you do for a living and you get to spend a lot of time doing what you are great at, it's not going to feel like work sometimes. But that
Yeah.
does not mean the tank isn't being drained while
Right.
you're doing that.
Right.
I think we tend to equate our tank being drained more with things we don't enjoy,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's what's
So,
most obvious. That drained me, that
yes.
we'd say. Yeah.
But I mean, I I love teaching,
Hmm.
and in the moment,
Yeah.
I feel
Great.
energized by it.
Yeah.
About an hour and a half after I'm done, I feel like I got run over.
Yeah. Yeah. We call it the
Right?
preacher's hangover.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chuck Swindoll, who I think is still alive
Wow.
and still producing content. I mean, it's just amazing. He said this: weariness is not next to godliness.
Mm,
And then he goes on to say some of us equate pace with character, with effectiveness, with value.
yeah.
And I'm of the mind that pace has nothing to do with character, effectiveness, and value,
Yes.
or very little. Let me
Yeah.
put it that way. Jim, I know some leaders, and I've been one of them,
Yeah.
who think their fast pace is a result of their spiritual passion.
Yeah.
I wonder, how often is it the result of adrenaline and cortisol addiction?
Yes.
So I want to stop and I want to ask you to, I've got more to say on this, but I'd love to just stop right now and hear your thoughts.
This is going to sound, this is my observation. So this is not statistics. This is not gospel. This is just me looking around. People who are really highly motivated and do great things do them until somewhere between like 30 and 40 years old, where they tend to hit their limitations in some painful way.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think that's okay. I learned how to walk by falling down, and the pain taught me not to lean so far one
Mhm.
direction. But that information and intelligence is not wisdom and experience. So
That's right.
wisdom generally has scars associated with how that wisdom was
Hmm.
attained. So I would say to people that are listening, if you're pushing, 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 as John has said many times, your pace is heading towards a brick wall of burnout potentially. And it isn't a nap that makes you better. It's not a day off that makes you better. It wasn't the lack of a nap that got you exhausted. It's going to take a long time to get your soul back on track, get your body
Yeah,
back on track, your relationships back on track. So I would say this, don't push it so far. When the yellow light on your dashboard starts blinking, you need to pay attention to it. And that's where I think people go really wrong is the yellow light blinks and they feel that pain of a schedule, but then they don't change your schedule. They keep saying
yeah,
yes. They keep because we went from 100 people to 300 people because I did this every day. Okay, but now there's three times the demands because you're still leading the church like it's 100
that's
people.
right.
It got you to 300, but you're growing towards 1,000. It's going to kill you around 350, 400, and that pain is telling you something. So if you feel empty, if you feel numb, if you feel the weight of your responsibility on primary relationships, you and the Lord, you and your spouse and your kids,
Yeah,
your own mental health, man, in the mercy and kindness of God, he's put a yellow light on your dashboard. So
that's right.
we're talking to you, watch the yellow light, get your oil changed, check the tire
Yes,
pressure, pull over, take a break, assess why you're in pain right now, and then make the adjustments because you will make the adjustments, but often after there's a really high price that has to be paid and it isn't always necessary that you have to give, you know, that you have to experience so much pain before you're corrected. Be corrected when your hand gets near the stove, not when your hand's been roasting on the stove,
that's right.
you know? So
Yeah. And one of the ways I think we change our oil, let's just use that analogy
yeah,
because you brought it
yeah,
up, is we practice Sabbath.
yes,
Jim, Sabbath is a reality check
yeah,
every week that I'm I'm part of the equation,
yeah,
but I'm not the biggest part of the equation.
no, mm-mm,
It's this reminder, it's a gift. It's a weekly reset button.
yeah,
It reminds me every week that what I do for a living is God's, not it's his
yeah,
baby, not
yeah,
mine. You know, the
yeah,
Bible even says, unless the Lord builds it, we labor in vain.
yeah,
It protects me. The Sabbath protects me from idolatry,
yeah,
from trusting more in my ability to hustle
yeah,
than I do in my Heavenly Father. It extends our shelf life. I think we've
yeah,
said this before that theologically, I have a lot of uh, maybe different ideas than Seventh Day Adventists do.
yeah,
But
sure.
one thing we do know about them is, on average, they live 10 years longer than the rest of the
They
population.
do. Yeah,
And I just wonder if their adherence to
mm,
Sabbath has something to do with that. I think
sure.
it probably does.
Yeah,
I think that taking that day off every week increases my productivity.
yeah,
That God can actually get more done
yeah,
through me when I Sabbath well. And Pastor, when you regulate your pace by obeying Sabbath, you're going to discover something. You're going to discover a capacity that you never thought was possible.
yeah,
A capacity to love your spouse and your kids, a capacity to love the people he's put under your supervision. And you think, well, how is that possible? The math doesn't work. God's math is different than our math.
right. Yeah,
His ways are higher than our ways. And so look, I have been on this soapbox for over 20 years.
yeah.
And I've and that you would think after 20 years I would have it perfected. I don't.
No, no,
I still occasionally find myself overscheduling,
sure.
saying yes to too much. Um, and I feel it now more than I've ever felt it before.
Yeah,
And so listen, Pastor, you have to get this. An unfettered pace is the number one reason
yes,
you're going to knock your head into the wall,
yeah,
skin your knee, stub your toe, hurt people,
yeah,
and hurt yourself. So
Yeah.
those are the three things today, Jim. You know, you can lose the church you lead and still have a great life. You,
Yeah.
the church you lead can lose you, and they can still have a great life post you.
Yeah.
Um, and an unfettered pace is the thing that really, I think, leads to some of the short shelf life, the bad decisions that pastors make that get them
Yeah.
and the people they love in trouble. So I think what I'd like to do is just leave with a couple of reflective questions
Yeah.
for our listeners and watchers today, Jim, and then I'll have you wrap us up, okay?
Do it. Yeah.
So here's a pastor leader. Here's a couple, maybe four questions I'd want you to ask. Number one, is your family getting your leftovers? Now, I
Mm.
would suggest you ask your spouse that.
Yeah. It's
Um,
good.
Here's another one. Is God glorified by the schedule I keep, or is he getting my leftovers too?
Wow.
Here's the third one. Do I give myself permission to relax and
Yeah.
have leisure? I get really nervous, Jim, when a pastor tells me I can't sit still.
Mm.
I get nervous about that because I
Yeah.
wonder what's going on, what's broken,
Right.
what lie is being believed
Yes.
that my sense of value, I always have to be moving.
Yes.
And then here's one last one. Would other people who know me think I'm working too many hours or living under too much stress?
Yeah. Good
So
questions.
Jim, that's what I've got uh,
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Well, I think again, on behalf of those that are watching and listening, John, thanks for your brutal, transparent, honest, fatherly conversation. I think sometimes, we don't know the answer to those questions because we're not quite sure why we're so driven. And I think this
Mm,
is where, again, counseling, coaching, pastoring really is helpful. I don't know that we can see ourselves the way we can't ask ourselves some questions that need to be asked because it's someone who knows the answer already asking the question the right way. If I was dealing right now with burnout and a deep depression, you would ask me questions that would get me to see the error of my ways because you've been there. The right questions to ask. So I would say to people that
right.
are watching and listening, if you're like, oh, gee, they're talking about this again. Wait a minute, why are you pushing back?
Mhm.
The Sabbath. I know already. Well, why is it bothering you? Why,
Mm,
if you keep hearing this and it keeps bothering you, it seems like maybe God's talking to you now, not just John or Converge. It sounds like there's some heavenly voice is saying to you, we need to talk. So enlisting the help of another person to ask the right questions is important. So at Converge, as well as we're not qualified to do it, we know counselors who are. We have existing relationships that can help you understand this. And I promise you, once you get the answers to these questions, your life changes. And you can do this
mm.
for a long time instead of a spurt of success followed by a combustible moment where it all blows
That's
up and
right.
everybody knows your name, but not for the reason you wanted them to know your name. So
Mhm. Right,
God
right.
bless you, our dear watchers and listeners. Please listen to John. He knows what he's talking about, and we are here trying to prevent your infamy and trying to promote um, your reputation being associated with godly wisdom. So if we can help in any way,
Amen.
convergecoach.com, click on the link. We'll talk for a while and we'll get you some answers or get you some help or get you in a direction you need to go. But we will not leave you as we found you because our goal, our motivation is to help you become the best version of you. They can do this for a really long time and
Amen.
have a long obedience in the same direction. So God bless you as you continue to lead from life.